This is Marla with my persuasive speech on the importance of voting. The ability to vote is one of the most cherished rights we as Americans are guaranteed in the Constitution. It is a right that many people fought for, marched for, and even died for over the centuries. We should appreciate this right and exercise it in every election, whether it's a local county election or it's a bigger election such as primaries or even the presidential election. Voting helps you decide your own future by allowing you to elect a candidate that has beliefs similar to those of your own. You can't win if you don't play, which means that the outcomes of elections are decided strictly by the people who participate. Some people think that their vote doesn't count, which is untrue because every vote has significance. In order to promote voting, our country needs to invest time and money into educating our nation on the political issues and those of which that will affect them directly. Voting is a privilege that should not be taken for granted. In the past, not everyone could vote. In 1870, when the 15th Amendment was passed, only white men were allowed to vote. With the passage of this amendment, black men were now able to vote. In 1920, with the passage of the 19th Amendment, women were now granted the right to vote. Many people worked endless hours to ensure that all Americans were guaranteed the right to vote. Lives were lost and blood was shed, but in the end, everyone was able to have this precious right. If not for our ancestors, we would not be entitled to this right, and only white men will be able to vote today. You cannot be guaranteed representation if you do not cast your vote. What are some of the reasons that most Americans say they do not vote? Most people say that they don't think one candidate could do a better job than the other. This is something that we need to consider, especially when voting for the president. One bad president could affect our country for many years, not only for their term. For example, if a president increases the national debt significantly, this is a problem that our country will have to deal with for many years after his term is gone. Another reason people say they do not vote is because the lines are too long, they don't have the time, or they don't have transportation. American people are willing to stand in line to see the premiere of a new Twilight movie or a new video game, but they're not willing to stand in line to decide the future of our country. Another excuse Americans have is that they do not have the time or just don't have the transportation. An effective way to vote without actually having to go to the polls is the absentee ballot. What's an easier way to vote than through the mail? The main reason for voting is that this right was not granted to us for free. It was fought for, and in the end, many people died to achieve equality in the polls. After all these things were done to make sure Americans could all vote, it seems a little selfish to not vote and exercise our right. Education about the candidates and understanding the impact that they can have on our country is another reason to persuade voters to get out and exercise their right to vote. My last reason is that you can't win if you don't play. If you aren't voting, you're giving up your voice and your opinions on how this country should be ran. If you really think about it, would you like it if you didn't have another choice?